Hi everyone, it's Catherine here from Inky Finger Cat, and I am back with a Christmas in May card. And our theme, as you'll have seen from that little clip, is Holly Jolly. So I started by grabbing all of my holly themed stamps. You may have spotted the Paper Artsy Darcy ones, which are my absolute favourite, but I decided to challenge myself not to use them, because I think on every Christmas in July, wherever the theme is something to do with holly, I use those ones. So I was like, nope, don't use those stamps. So hard. So instead, I ended up grabbing mainly the indigo blue stamps. In fact, no, I think I only used indigo blue stamps, yeah. And it was from a magazine kit from a couple of years ago. And I decided to create my little wreath. Well, it's more of a frame than a wreath because it's only 4 sides. And it looks distinctly like a square rather than a circle, but you know what I mean. Using the stamp wheel. Stamp wheel's so easy to do this. For those who followed me for a long time know that I had one of those sort of build a wreath template things. It wasn't the official one, it was a knockoff from eBay. And I've used that quite a lot to do it in my normal stamp platform, where you actually turn the cardstock rather than the stamps. And it worked all right. Wasn't perfect, probably because it wasn't the real thing. But this is so much easier because the stamp wheel, you can put it in so many different positions, going around in a circle. I love it. I still love my stamp wheel. For those who remember when I sort of like bought the stamp wheel, I did do was it worth the money? I still don't think it's worth the money, but it's close to being worth the money in my opinion. Very curious by the new Sizzix tool that's out there, and one of my friends on the design team for Kingston Crafts has just been given one for some professional design team work, and I'm like, oh, very tempted. So I'm going to wait to see what she says. But it's, it's quite pricey when you get another stamping platform, and it's like, do I really need it? Do I really need it? It's the one that they've done with Catherine Pooler. Anyway, I digressed. I stamped the holly 4 times. I then stamped it onto some Post-it notes. I cut out the 3 layers of the Post-it notes at once and used that as a mask. And then I've put a little bit of this sort of like ferny branch behind. And now I am stamping the holly another couple of times, and then a flower 3 times that's from the same stamp set. The reason being was I thought that I might add the flowers onto the wreath, and I'm thinking about the inside of the card. And then I just did colouring, basically. I'm not the world's greatest colourist. That's definitely not my skill. But I can colour things in, and I can make them look okay. And that is all I need them to do. So I'm using Stampin' Blend markers. My markers are not in great condition. I've also had them for quite a while. I don't own all of the colours, and in fact I don't even own the light and the dark of all the colours that I own, because I have got rid of ones that have gone completely. So I used a mixture of Just Jade Dark. I don't even know if that's Stampin' Up colour anymore, I don't think it is, and Bermuda Bay Dark and Light on my cards. And the way I did it was using the darkest colour first, which in this case was the Just Jade, then the next lighter colour, and then the next lighter colour, and just gradually grew my leaf. So I went from the centre darkest and went all the way out to the edge. And I did my usual trick of do all the colour in that's one particular pen before you then move on. Except for then I completely forgot that I'd got those extra 2 leaves stamped, holly sprigs stamped. Then my colour of the berries, I went with dark and light cherry cobbler. And again, just some little accents on the berries in the dark, and then went with the lighter colour. And of course, at this point, I realised, oh, I forgot about my other ones. So I have to go in, do those, and then finish off the leaves with that lighter colour of the Bermuda Bay. I then decided for my flowers to keep them fairly neutral, so I just go with the petal pink. Again, darkest bits in the centre, and where there might be some shadows where the petals fold over. To be honest, you can hardly see these on the final card because I didn't think of the placement very well. But they're there. I know they're there. hey ho. And then I went over, originally I went to go with the sort of brush end, but my brush end is dried up and not great. So I did have to go in with the bullet point end of the blend marker and just went over the flowers. It just slightly pinkifies the cream. Now, the cardstock I'm working on is from my Dylusions journal that those who have watched some of my craft room redecorate videos will have seen. I did get rid of all of my half-finished journals. I had a good little look through. I think there is a video up where I did a little flick through of my journal. But then empty pages I tore out and I'm using them just as cardstock. It's brilliant quality Ranger cardstock. It is this sort of like vanilla cream colour. But I do love it. It is lovely for working on. I just don't do mixed media in the same way anymore. I don't really have an interest to do journals. So the only journals I kept were all of my circle journals that I did with my friends, and I treasure those. So those are absolutely a prized possession. But I did get rid of all of the other journals that I owned. So that's the cardstock I'm working on. You can buy this. It's, I think, from Ranger. I think they do it as just cardstock itself, but as I say, mine's just torn from the journals, and you'll see another couple of sheets of that coming out in a bit when I create the insert for my card. Now, whilst I'm doing all this fussy cutting of the elements that are the separate elements, I am having to think about what I want to do in terms of my final card. And I decided I wanted to do a square card because obviously I've done a square element for the focal point. And I'm thinking 5x5 square, and I'm thinking craft cardstock. So I went through to my little box of card stash, card blanks, and I found a craft 5x7, and I just trimmed it down. I made sure it was 5, and then trimmed it down, and then I'm trimming this focal element down. I'm basically doing it so that the furthest most side stamping, the stamping that's furthest to the side, is lined up the same place on the trim on each way. And then for my insert, here we go. This is another bit of that Dylusions journal. I am just pulling out, I'm doing a 4.5 inch square panel. Right, time for a sentiment. So I've decided I'm going to kind of cluster my extra elements down bottom left hand side. I stamped my sentiment twice because I wasn't entirely sure if I was happy with the first one or not, and I did end up using the second one. I then, for some reason, ended up with a really wonky sentiment, and I'm not quite sure what happened with my trimming. I obviously didn't do a good job, so I have to fiddle around with it a little bit. And then I pulled out my trusty banner punch and took the triangles out the end. I decided I needed to ink edges because it needed some kind of framing, and I wasn't wanting to put another mat underneath. Also, my Memento ink it's not dry, it's just not as pigmented as it used to be. So I do need to think about re-inking that at some point. But it does mean it's not quite a black. It's a very dark grey, if that makes sense. And what that means is if I'd have put black with it, it would have looked weird. So I'm contemplating how to work with my cluster. I decided I wanted some more craft coming in though. So I went over to my big bucket of dies. I'm now looking at it on my shelf, and I really need to sort it out because I can't get the lid to go on. Yeah, I need to think about die storage. That's something that I've not really thought about since I've moved into the new craft space. It's the same craft space as before, just new decoration and new furniture. And yeah, my dies isn't going to work how that's been done. So I need to think about that and how I'm going to do that. Anyway, I went and found some Sizzix dies. They are not Christmas themed, but I just wanted some kind of spriggy branches. So I have cut those. I ended up cutting it 4 times from the bit of the craft cardstock that I had cut off the card blank. Nothing goes to waste in my craft room. And that is giving me some little craft elements to just add to my front of my card, and I'm going to save one for the inside too. And then I was about to stick down my sentiment and I suddenly thought, no, I am going to create another banner that's going to sit underneath, and I'm going to offset them slightly. Again, I just didn't cut the edges of it just because I felt like it needed a little bit of framing. And it's quite subtle, that inking. It's not like in your face. It does dry back a little bit. Okay, so I offset my little bit of my banner, and then I put my flowers on without really testing the shape and the size. And then I add to my little sentiment cluster a little bit. And yeah, that's when I lose my flowers. I'd have been fine if I'd not added to my little banner, but I do, because I decided I wanted a little bit of some kind of ribbon or twine in there. But you can see there, I'm already starting to lose it from where I've put them. I put my my little foam adhesive on because I'm going to put it up, and then I think, no, I want something soft in there. So I went to my ribbon basket and I pulled out this, it's like, trying to think of the word. It's quite a thick ribbon, and it's been printed on one side with words. It's a very old Memory Makers, I think, yeah, Memory Makers ribbon. I've had it in my stash for years. I actually just turned it upside down and did it the other side round, and just had that peeking out the bottom of my banner, which of course made it a lot wider, which means I pretty much lost my flowers by this point. So my leftover flowers, I then decided to pop on the inside panel. I did trim down those sprigs, those craft sprigs that I had included, so they weren't quite as long. I do love my card. I think it looks fab. But the reality is I have kind of lost my flowers a little bit along the way. But never mind. And this is just me deciding on finishing touches. I just add some Wink of Stella to my berries. And that is pretty much my card done. I really like it. I think it's really cute. Is it holly? Yes. Is it jolly? Probably. Am I a little bit frustrated that I hid my flowers entirely? Yeah, a little bit, but never mind. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please do remember to subscribe if you want to see more videos in future. Please check out the description, my Facebook group where the Christmas in July and monthly challenges sit. And like and leave me a comment about what you enjoyed. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.